From Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I am Jovina. This is the Daily Creature. And this is the Daily Creature. I have inside this box a living rat, Rattus norvegicus, our animal of the day that's going to inspire our creativity. It's kind of a weird story and a long story, the way I come to have this little guy. I don't want to go into detail, but a particular shopping center parking lot on a particularly warm evening, and there we were. Let me just say, this little guy likes apple cinnamon Nutri-Grain bars, and we'll we'll leave it at that. I'm so excited to have a live reference for us to work with. We haven't done that yet, obviously, and you can't do that necessarily with every animal. This is maybe a little bit dangerous what we're doing, but what's the worst that can happen? Let's get him out. Let's get a look at him. Go. Okay. Just want to kind of. Hi. Hi, Caleb. Careful here. I named him Caleb. He's. Oh! Oh, there he goes. Oh! There he goes. Caleb! Caleb! I just gave him that name. I don't think he really knows it yet. I feel like he was just starting to learn it. This is not good. This was not the plan. I was so excited to have a live reference, and I just read that there are 35 pounds of pressure behind your average rat bite, and I think Caleb gave me all 35. Caleb! That's a bad idea. This is a bad idea. Ratty Doodles. Okay. Ratty Doodles. It's my stage name for a couple of years. Let's set up some references here, friendos. We have some lovely picture references. We'll get them set up. Here we've got our guy. This is really our animal of the day. He's the brown rat, the Norway rat, Rattus norvegicus, also called the wharf rat. This guy is actually a black rat. You can see his eyes are a little bigger, his ears are a little bigger. He's a bit cuter, I suppose. This here I find very helpful. I like this picture, this silhouette, this black silhouette of a Norway rat. Note certain elements, the high rat rear, the rat rump being higher than the head. You see a rat running along and it's got that head going lower than the rump. It's just sort of, it can be unnerving or cute, adorable, depending on how you look at it, right? It all just depends. I'm going to move these references out of the way. And we are doodling. And doodling is a lot like sketching, I suppose, except, and this is more of an opinion of mine, I believe when you're doodling, you need to be doing something else while you doodle. Doodling is what happens when you're supposed to be doing one thing, but instead you give in to that irresistible urge to draw. I've got a sketchbook here. Do you have a sketchbook? I have lots of sketchbooks. It's good to keep a sketchbook, but all you need for this exercise really is paper. Paper's in the sketchbook, obviously, so I'm going to throw a couple of pens in here, too. These are some of my favorite kinds of pens. They're Micron pens. I have a number 1, which is a fairly thin line, and a number 8. It's going to be a thicker line. Throw a pencil in here as well, because, you can always draw with a pencil. If you prefer it, or a marker or a crayon, friends, it's sort of a whatever you got kind of a thing. And to properly doodle, I'm going to play a lecture that I created just moments ago all about the Norway rat in the voice and style of David Attenborough, the great David Attenborough, who knows all things wild animal. And really, there's no better zoological spokesperson than David Attenborough. So you may recognize that voice. It's sort of a nature show voice. I'm going to play that now, and I should be listening to the lecture, but what I'll really just be doing is doodling. And I'm going to be doodling rats based on our references, but I'm going to give them wings as well. So without further ado, the lecture and the doodling.
Rattus norvegicus, or the brown rat, or the Norway rat. This species has adapted to more or less every habitat except the desert. He lives communally and preferably close to or in contact with man, although it can still be found in natural environments. Its favorite haunts are sewers, stables, and cellars. It is mainly active at night. This rat is not as good a climber as the black rat, but it is an excellent swimmer. It prefers food of animal origin, such as fish, mice, and chicken, but it is highly omnivorous. The female bears 2 or 3 litters a year, each with 6 to 12 young, after a gestation period of 21 to 26 days. This rat is a serious pest because of the health hazards caused by its presence. This species includes the familiar white laboratory rats.
You know, I should have been paying attention to that lecture, but instead I just doodled some flying rats. But they're fun, aren't they? Just your standard rat with some wings. And I've done my thicker line with the 8. I might go in with my thinner line and, add little details. Shade my ratty in a bit, do some little lines. It's called cross-hatching. You create the shadow through little lines and then crossing them over. And even some things in the air. Bits and pieces, details. There is no right or wrong here. You're doodling, you're letting your mind go. And rat's what I'm talking about.
Rat's a good story.
Creativity is currency, friends, and today we are rich because I'm going to send you on a special cultural scavenger hunt, if you will. We love these rodents when it comes to storytelling. They pop up as characters, rats do, quite a lot in our stories. Why is it that they occupy such a place in our minds and in our hearts? Revulsion, charm, all of the above, who knows? But they certainly do. It's undeniable. And there are a number of great rat characters, and I want to send you to find them. So I have here a little list, in no particular order, of some rat characters that I want you to explore, investigate, find them. These characters exist in books and in movies, in some cases in both. It's all fairly appropriate and straightforward. So here we go. The rat characters in no particular order. You've got Templeton, Splinter, Master Splinter, Remy, Rizzo, Nicodemus, and Scabbers. Scabbers, a rat with a secret. Fun stuff. I've left off of this list because I think it's a bit general. It might be hard to find them. Rat or Ratty from The Wind in the Willows. Wonderful story. Wonderful character, Ratty. And also Rat from The Fantastic Mr. Fox, who appears in both the book and the movie. Also really delightful. So you should check those out as well. Lastly, I was wondering, as I'm sure you may have before, what's Chuck E. Cheese? Is he a mouse or is he a rat? And I asked Googla, am I saying that right? I asked Googla, and this is what I discovered. Although Chuck E. Cheese is currently an anthropomorphic mouse, a mouse man, he was originally a rat before a 1995 facelift. Do tell. Go on. As a rat, the mascot costume used to have a tail, but it was phased out back in the early 1990s due to children constantly wanting to yank and pull the tail. Well, children. Typical. So there it is on Chuck E. Cheese. Makes you kind of wonder about Mickey, right? Once you're a rat, can you just say I'm a mouse now? Maybe. I suppose it's his right. Good luck to you, Chuck E. Cheese. Seasonal, scary clay rat. Friends, Halloween is just around the corner. Is that fair to say? It feels like it, doesn't it? Well, given that, let's get prepared for some creepy stuff. Oh, it's a dead rat. It's not dead. And it's not a rat. It's merely clay. And I'm going to show you at this moment how to create your own little dead rat. You don't have to make your rat dead. Your rat could be alive. Maybe this rat is meant to be alive. But I like the approach to making him sort of laying down. Whoop, there he goes. Making him laying down, giving him that weight. He's sort of there on the ground. Perhaps he's just resting or sleeping. So let's get to it. Here is what you will need or want. And I've been meaning to tell you a bit more about this clay. This is an oil-based modeling clay. Here's the brand I really like to use. You're welcome, Sergeant Art, for this complimentary plug. Sergeant Art, great stuff. It's oil-based modeling clay. It never dries. It stays soft. Yeah. Got a big piece of black because we're going for that sort of Halloween rat look. We'll go black rat, jet black rat. They don't tend to ever be that dark and deep a color, but that's how all those fun rubber rat decorations for Halloween look. So we'll take a page in that book. I've got a little bit of pink and a bit of red and a bit of this sort of fleshy-ish color that's going to be for the tail. And also I have a little pair of scissors, a paintbrush that nobody cares about anymore, and some clay tools. And these are about $3 or $4 a pop at a craft store like Michael's. They make all kinds of different clay tools, and I like these plastic ones in particular for working with the oil-based clay. They come with different sort of tips for, oh, there we go. You see that? Tips for cutting and poking and smoothing and all of the kinds of things you would want to do to your clay. These are the things you'll need, and we'll start with this puppy right here. So get out of here, Trey. And friends, first thing is first, you're going to take those capable hands of yours and soften up your clay. Squeeze it, smush it, get it nice and soft. And when it feels soft enough, your rat clay, you're going to kind of squeeze it into a kind of a potato shape, a big blob like this. And we'll start there. Now, in this particular project, rather than break up my clay to put it back together, say breaking it down into body, arms, legs, head, etc., I'm going to simply pinch all of the parts of my rat out of this one lump. Using my pincher fingers, show me your pincher fingers, yep, there they are. I'll pinch his or her head, legs, tail we'll add later. Let's start by pinching the head. And this is an interesting challenge because you want to be able to see all of the sort of features of your rat before they're there. It's almost like when a wood carver is carving a block of wood. There's the block, and she has to see that block of wood and see each of the parts and kind of carve them out. We're going to do the same thing. You want to leave yourself some room. So you'll notice I'm taking my pincher fingers now and I'm working out the neck of my rat. And I'm going to start to work out that snout of my rat as well. I have this delightful reference nearby, so I'm just going to grab it, bring it back in. Oh yes, that silhouette really helps us out to kind of get some understanding of the rat's form, you know. The big rump, almost like a little bear with teeth that never stop growing. Anyway, I'm pretty satisfied with that head, that snout, you know. Rat's looking up, rat's looking down, rat's looking across town. And same pincher fingers, but now we will employ them to pinch little legs. I'm taking my time to pinch out a little leg on one side of my rat and a leg on the other. Now this is perhaps a bit complicated an idea, but because we have our rat laying on its side, I'm worried less about that side of the rat. The look that I want to achieve is really, it's going on here. The face of the rat, the front of the rat. And even now, as I'm building and pinching out these features, I'm trying to think about how they might lay on the ground, you know, if that makes sense. How the rat might sit or set. Get out of here, reference. I'll now begin to work out the back legs of my rat as well, the hind legs, pinching slightly larger pieces. You know, and if you pinch out and pinch out and pinch out and it gets too long and skinny, you're not happy with it, simply smush it back in, roll it back in, and rework it. You can pick up your sculpture to work it. You can also keep it on the table while you work with it. And I'm getting that other leg now. And I think I mentioned this just the other day. You may have books at home. You may very well have pictures of these creatures right under your nose. And all you have to do is grab that book and you can use that as a reference. Now, certainly check in with the owner of that book if that book is not yours. Don't grab mom's favorite rat coffee table book and get clay all over it. You know what I mean? Anyway, kind of make a decision about how you want those legs to lay. They're sort of splayed out to the side. I'll lay my rat back down. I'm getting happy with that. Now I'm going to work out the rat's ears, similar to pinching out the legs. I'm just going to take those pincher fingers and work out a little lump and flatten it. And then another little lump on the back here to create that other ear, the ear that's on the other side, but probably does not need to be as sturdy as the ear that's closer to the side from which we're viewing our sculpture. Basic form of your rat there. Looking good, looking good. Let's set her aside and grab a bit of this kind of tan color. This I'm going to use for the rat's tail. And I think we have more than enough here. I'll take a flat hand, fingers together, and I'll roll out a sort of a skinny worm shape, rolling it skinnier and skinnier. And it comes to a point. This strikes me as a little thick for the tail, so I may remove a bit and re-roll. You know, that tail, that rat tail, that makes you go, ooh. And I'm going to just press in a bit on the rat rump, push that tail in, bring down a little black clay to kind of encase my tail, and lay him back down. And again, I'm considering this view of the rat, right? This is what I'm concerned with. This is the way I want my rat to be seen, kind of laying there like that. So I'm not worried about underneath. I'm worried about that. I'm not worried necessarily at all. I'm having a good time. Are you having a good time? Friends, if you don't have a good time with this sort of thing, you got to find a way to do it. If you're not having a good time with this sort of thing, okay. Now, let's get a good look at that face. I'm going to press in a bit where the eye will go. Right? And then I'll take a tiny bit of the that fleshy color that we've been using for the tail, and I'm going to pop that right there where Ratty's eye goes. And then I'll take the old sharp pencil, favorite sculpture tool of mine, and I'm going to roll out a hole where we will place the scary red clay for his scary red eye. I've got my red clay here. I break with the old pincher fingers a little lump, and I'm rolling a little tiny ball of red that will hopefully fit right in there. Now I feel like that ball of red is a little bit big and a little buggier than I want it to be. So I'm going to remove a slight amount, re-roll it, and pop it back in there. Hooray, we've arrived, I think. I can live with that. And now I've got this small piece of pink. I'm going to break even, because I don't need that much. I'll break even smaller bit off and pop that on to the end of Ratty's snout. Kind of smooth it up an end of it. For the ear, for the nose. I was looking at his ear and thinking about ears, but in fact, that's not his ear, that's his nose. And I'm going to give him a little nostril here too. There we go. Okay. Continuing with the details, I'm just going to steal a little tiny smidge from my rat's black clay here. And from that smidge, I take the tiniest little bit. There we go. See that? Teeny tiny bit. And I'm going to use that for the pupil of the rat and pop it on his eye like that. Look at that. Isn't that fun? Gives it a bit more character. Now for these, the scary rat, the dead rat, I kind of like the tiny little pupil in the middle, giving him a dazed look. But you could also add a bit of character with an eyebrow. And I'm going to give him the mean rat look. So I take a little tiny bit of black and I roll it and I create a kind of a worm shape and I lay it on top of the eye there. I'm going to bring this up so you can see it. And in effect, it creates a kind of an angry look. Angry rat, angry dead rat, angry living rat. Friends, your rat, your rules. You get to do this the way you want to do it. And everything I'm telling you now, it's up to you. It's suggestive. You don't have to do things this way. You don't have to make a rat at all. Truth be told, you're free to turn this off and go about your day. I've got one of these clay tools here. This one's rather knife-like, and I'll use this to just gently texture. And I realized that with this black clay, it might be hard to see exactly what I'm doing. So bringing it a bit closer, giving them that sort of fur texture by just snipping there, little teeny tiny marks. Just disturb the surface of your rat. Disturb the surface of your rat. What a phrase, right? Now, once you've gotten your rat fully covered with texture, should you indeed want to get your rat covered with texture, we can add some of the super fine little details. Things like this. I take a teeny tiny bit of pink and I pop it onto the ear. I pop it onto the ear like that. Smooth it in a bit. And then I'll use my pencil to kind of get in there and integrate that pink more and also make like a little hole. Get a little pink in the ears. I work with many a young artist that always wants to know about pink in the ears. For a kitty, for a rat, what have you. Little pink in the ears. Friends and neighbors, there's one last thing I'd like to show you here, one last thing I'd like to do, and I hope I can do it visual justice, but I mentioned the paintbrush. You may have noticed on my rat, I'd given him some little whiskers. Making whiskers out of clay is a tough racket, but if you find, again, that paintbrush that nobody cares about, this needs to be a paintbrush that is no longer used to paint with and can now be used for whiskers. And you're going to take a pair of scissors. These are little stainless steel grip scissors, nice and small, very sharp. Gotta love a good little pair of sharp scissors. And I'm cutting those bristles off of the brush. And hold these bristles up so you can see. The end here, where I cut them, that's the end you want to stick in your rat's face because it's going to be stiffer, that end of the bristle. It's going to be a bit stiffer, that end of the bristle. So in I go. I'll grab my rat so you can get a look. And I'm going to pop a whisker in maybe here. Just put it in there. And look at that. It stays. One down, maybe 3 or 4 more to go. You can add as many whiskers as you like. You can also texture the tail. I like this tool here for tail texturing. I like this tool for tail texturing. It's kind of a tongue twister. And I just add these little bits like that. It seems to help. If you ever look at a rat tail, it's got a kind of a scaly look to it. Again, some people are really into it. Some people love their rats and keep them as pets. That's called the fancy rat, right? And for some people, it's more of a stomach turner, this species. Polarizing and delightful. So there you have it, ladies and germs. A little clay ratty, just in time for Halloween, which again, time is strange these days, so it feels in a way that Halloween could just spring right up on us. And hopefully by then we're all getting outside, we're throwing on costumes. Hey, what are you going to be for Halloween, by the way? You have some time to think about it and start to assemble your costume. Hey, maybe I can help you. I would love to. So creative creatures, there you have it. Scary clay rat. Rats all, folks. Okay. Do I know my guy or do I know my guy? I can hear him scrabbling around in there. Woo, he's mad. Sorry, Caleb. Well, we don't want the same thing to happen again, so I'm going to be ready this time. Let's finally get a look at this guy. Let me just say, before we do this, I have to confess, it wasn't right for me to bring Caleb in. It wasn't right for me to take Caleb out of his natural setting in the parking lot. And after showing him to you for a moment, I want to let him go outside, of course. So let's do it. Oh, also a thing about earlier, when you're looking for those characters, the character is Rizzo the rat you want to be looking for, not Ratso Rizzo. Different character, not actually a rat. Rat-like, but not a rat. So Rizzo the rat is what you're looking for. And okay, here we go. Don't you try anything, Caleb. Before we do this, I have to confess something else as well. Caleb is not a rat. Caleb's just a piece of fur. And this is a trick I'd like you to try at home. If you can find something like this, fuzzy, a piece of fur, you can sort of crumple it up in your hands like this, right? And then go up to someone in your home, a family member, a loved one, and you hold this little furry creature and you mess with them a little bit, right? You could say, Mom, Dad, brother, sister, I found a strange little creature. I found a rat. Look at this hamster. Maybe this is Sparky. Remember when he went into the vent and we didn't see him again? He came back, right? And then you can kind of do a wah and let it fly out or whatever. You decide, you know. But the point is, you're home, you're hanging out a lot. A little showmanship can go a long way. A little creative showmanship, a little fun. Uh, if you're someone who doesn't do that often, this is a great time to do it. If you're someone like me that does this sort of thing all the time with the fur and the creatures, maybe it's a good time to lay off the showmanship a little. Balance in all things, my friends. From Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I'm Jovina. This has been your Daily Creature. Do stay creative.